Food, shopping, crime, housing, healthcare. I'm going to compare all those things between Seaside and Astoria. All that starts right now. Hey everyone, this is Seth Marchant with Home Team Brokers coming to you from the beautiful Oregon coast. If you're new to this channel, living on the Oregon coast, we show you what it's like to eat, sleep, play, all the pros and cons. And in this case, we're going to compare two of the larger towns on the northern Oregon coast, Astoria and Seaside. If you want to keep getting videos like this, make sure and hit the subscribe button, tap the bell, make sure you get notified each time we drop a new video. We get people reaching out to us all the time that want to move along the Oregon coast, and if you're one of those people, if you have questions, give us a call, send us a text, shoot us an email. You can even click the link below in the description if you want to schedule a Zoom with us. Okay, let's talk about Seaside versus Astoria. All right, so first, why are we comparing Seaside and Astoria? Well, like I mentioned, northern Oregon coast, these are two of the larger towns. The other towns are a lot smaller. Warrenton is going to be your closest town to Astoria, and sometimes you actually see those like hyphenated, like Warrenton, Astoria, because the areas are just right there, and because I think Marchant is a little bit smaller, sometimes people go over towards Astoria for things to do. But Gearhart, Cannon Beach, Manzanita, those are all kind of smaller towns along the Oregon coast. Not quite kind of the same feel that Astoria and Seaside have, but Astoria and Seaside do have their distinct differences, and in this video I'm going to cover some of those with you. So first thing, population size. Astoria has about 10,000 people roughly. Seaside has about 7,000 people. A lot of these other smaller towns on the Oregon coast in between or just south of Seaside, they're gonna have, you know, in the hundreds, maybe 1,000 people here and there. So these towns are significantly smaller than Seaside and Astoria. Seaside is about 4 or 5 square miles. Astoria is closer to 10, so geographically Astoria is a lot bigger, and it does feel bigger than Seaside. Seaside does feel a little bit more condensed. They've got that one main road, that strip, Broadway, that everybody likes to drive down, and you know, it's kind of a, Seaside definitely has more of a touristy feel to it. I think that's what a lot of tourists will come to do. I mean, that's kind of the spot that you go to, is you go drive down the Seaside Strip. It's also notable too that Seaside is going to be the first town that you get to coming from Portland, heading on Highway 26, Sunset Highway. Seaside is the very first town that you can get to, so for that reason, I think Seaside gets a little bit more tourist traffic. And the kind of downtown of Seaside is kind of maybe catered a little bit more to tourists. You've got some really touristy types of stores. You've got that mall, the arcade. I remember in high school it was kind of a thing to go to Seaside and go to the Strip, especially at spring break. Kids from other high schools would just drive to Seaside and just drive the Strip. I don't ever remember that really being a thing with Astoria, so Seaside definitely has more of a touristy feel to it. Astoria is bigger, it's more spread out. The downtown is bigger. Definitely gets tourism there, of course, but not being as congested and not kind of having that one place where all the tourists tend to go. Astoria doesn't quite have that same feel to it. So again, Seaside 7,000 people, Astoria 10,000 people. Seaside is going to be more congested though, and Astoria is going to be more spread out. Now as far as things to do, you've got things to do in both areas. Probably one bigger draw for Astoria fishing. There's a spot called Buoy 10, and there's fishing charters that you can charter to that area. It's people come from all over the state and Washington, Oregon and Washington, to go fishing there. There's maybe a few more things to do in Astoria. You've got a lot of outdoor activities. You've got hiking in both. You've got golf in both. Although the Astoria, I think Country Club is actually maybe even closer to Seaside than it is Astoria. Seaside's got the boardwalk, and again, they've got that Broadway strip that everybody walks to and down to the beach. Astoria has the River Walk, which they've kind of been developing, businesses have been developing that Riverwalk over time recently. You might see some construction when you go down there, but the Riverwalk in Astoria is very nice. Seaside's got the aquarium, Astoria's got a rail car. Astoria might be known a little bit more statewide or even nationally. That is where the cult classic, the film Goonies, was filmed. The house that's kind of the main house from Goonies, you can still go find that somewhere in Astoria. I think it might be fenced off or something like that. They get way too many people coming to look at it. You're better off going to look at, if you remember the jail in Goonies, that is still there, and you can go check that out. And even that, the getaway car, that Jeep, that the Fratellis or whatever their name was, the bad people in Goonies, that Jeep is actually still in the parking lot by the jail there. It's got a couple fake bullet holes in it from the movie. So Goonies, they have a Goonies Day too in Astoria. I've never really actually attended it, but I'm sure if you love Goonies, it's great. So we do get some people sometimes talking about Goonies that reach out to us that are thinking about moving to Astoria. So that's just one reason why I mention it. But going back to things to do, there are, it's probably about equal. There's things to do in both towns. So I would probably give that one a wash. Now, as far as food goes, Astoria having the larger population, there are more restaurants there. There are more choices there. You do have newer restaurants and kind of up and coming stuff in both towns. There's just a little bit more of it in Astoria. Seaside is probably most famously known for a restaurant called Duger's. It's been there, I didn't look it up before this video to see how long it's been there, but it's been there as long as I can remember, since I was a kid. I mean, it's been there for decades, so it's definitely the most kind of notable restaurant from Seaside. Astoria has a lot of newer restaurants that are popular, most notably the two breweries, Bowie Beer Company and Fort George Brewery. Those are probably most notable because you can go to supermarkets anywhere throughout, not anywhere, but a lot of places throughout Oregon, and you'll actually see their beer in supermarkets. You'll also find their beer on tap in restaurants. So I think in Astoria, you get people coming to Bowie Beer Company and Fort George Brewing because they've heard or they've tried that somewhere else throughout the state. So there's a little bit more notoriety, there's more choices for food in Astoria, a few more food carts than there are in Seaside. Those are always becoming more popular. So on the food side of things, I would probably give the nod to Astoria. You're just gonna find more food options, but both have great food. Now for shopping, Seaside is known for having the outlets. They've got a handful of great stores there. The Nike store seems like it's typically pretty busy. We go there occasionally. So the Seaside outlet malls, I think people even, if you're coming from like Portland, people from Portland will stop at the outlets. So that's also kind of like a touristy place as well, but a lot of locals too shopping at the outlets in Seaside as well. Astoria, and this is technically in Warrenton, but it's closer to Astoria. It's just right across the bay, so you kind of give it to Astoria. Astoria has Costco, Walmart, and Fred Meyer's all kind of like right next to each other, all within maybe a half mile of each other. The Walmart and the Costco are in the same kind of like strip mall. So that right there between those three stores, that's probably going to give you better shopping and more things anywhere else on the coast. So I would probably give the nod for shopping to Astoria for that reason. It's the Costco and Walmart though are pretty close to Seaside. I'm talking like a 12-minute drive or something like that. Now as far as jobs go, according to Indeed, not a whole lot of difference in job openings. You would expect maybe with 30% or so, roughly 40% more population in Astoria, that you might have 30 or 40% more jobs maybe. Not really the case. Indeed had something like 1,100 jobs posted, and then Astoria had something like 1,200 or something like that. The city of Seaside had 6 openings. The city of Astoria had 8 openings. You might find a little bit more industry. You might find some more opportunities in Astoria. You do have the port in Astoria as well, which couldn't find any super recent job numbers, but as recently as years ago, you're talking about just under 1,000 people that are working for the port, 950 people, something like that. So you're probably going to find a little bit more opportunity in Astoria, again just having more population, but the gap isn't that big. Now as far as healthcare goes, both have hospitals, both have a couple of urgent cares as well. Seaside has a Providence, which is a larger chain of hospitals. There's Providence all throughout Oregon. Providence is probably going to have a larger network. Astoria has Columbia Memorial Hospital, not going to be as big, I don't think, as a Providence. Might not have as many doctors or care providers in network. Ratings though, according to Google, are a little bit better on Columbia Memorial Hospital in Astoria than they are in Seaside for the Providence. So take that for what it's worth. Now as far as your crime goes, when you look online and you look at the statistics, the crime is not great for either area. If you're just looking at the numbers and looking at the stats, Astoria is maybe a little bit better than Seaside. Both are not great though, just according to the stats. I personally, and maybe anecdotally, feel like it's maybe a little bit deceptive. You know, when I was looking at some of these numbers, my first thought was like, well, let's compare this to, the major metropolitan area in Oregon, which is Portland. Because, Portland, I'm certain that the crime has to be higher in Portland, especially in the last couple years. So maybe we don't have the most updated stats. And again, anecdotally, I don't really ever feel unsafe or uncomfortable really anywhere in Seaside or Astoria, whereas comparing to like a Portland, there's some places where you could probably definitely feel uncomfortable. So just looking at the stats are not great. Again, Astoria is probably a little bit better than Seaside, but anecdotally, just walking around town, living in the area, spending time in the area, again, if I compare it to Portland, and if you're somebody that's like coming from the Bay Area, which we get a lot of people coming from California, a lot of people from the Bay Area, it doesn't feel like the crime is high there at all. Again, really compared to a Portland. So, statistics, there's that saying, there's lies, there's damn lies, and then there's statistics. And that's just because, you can find ways to make numbers, look misleading. Or be misleading rather. And I think that's maybe a little bit the case here. Also should note that a lot of the crime too that you would find in Astoria or Seaside is typically property crime. Not to minimize property crime, nobody likes their stuff stolen or or damaged, but you also don't like, violent crime, and for sure your violent crime, like your gun crime, is going to be higher in Portland. I don't even have to look at the numbers to know that. I mean, there's like 3 or 4 shootings last night. It was in Portland. Not common at all, but that just happens to be the case after I was filming this. So again, the crime, if you look at the numbers online, don't look great, but in town, and we've had people that have moved here, people that have reached out to us to move here, that have said the same thing, like, hey, I thought maybe looking online that the crime and maybe some of the homelessness might be worse than it actually was. When I actually got here to look around, it wasn't like, what you might have expected after what you read online. So numbers aren't great, but, and again, Astoria I would probably give the nod to, but they're right about the same. And again, really probably not that bad. All right, the final thing here is housing. So now again, population of Seaside, 7,000, Astoria about 10,000. You would expect there to be a lot more houses in Astoria, which there is. Right now, before I shot this, there were 68 properties on the market. There are 28 single family homes. Home values have gone up about 18% in Astoria over the past year. In Seaside, there's 22 properties, 16 single family homes, and your appreciation is about the same too. So if you're looking for a home, if you want to move here, you are going to find more inventory in Astoria. You also might find some larger lots too. So if you're somebody that's looking for a bigger lot, again, Seaside is really kind of condensed around the downtown, a lot of small lots. Astoria is spread out a little bit more. You've got the hill too. So if you're somebody that wants to be kind of set back, or maybe you're worried about tsunamis, you're gonna find more homes that are outside of the tsunami zone in Astoria, more homes that have a view. Maybe if you want kind of like a panoramic view of the ocean Or if you're in Astoria, you're mostly going to see the Columbia River. You're going to have to probably get pretty high up on the hill to actually see the ocean. But if you want a view, you probably find that a little bit more in Astoria. So you're going to find more homes, maybe some bigger lots, some bigger homes, better views, just more selection in general for Astoria. Inventory is low throughout the entire country. You probably already know that. It's no exception on the Oregon coast. It's not terrible in Seaside and Astoria though. It's a lot worse in some places like Cannon Beach or Manzanita or Pacific City. Only a handful of homes on the market. In Seaside, 16 single family homes being on the market right now. That's not very many, obviously. But it's enough to maybe find what you want and be competitive and actually win an offer. If you do have questions, you can give us a call, send us a text, or shoot us an email. Any questions about moving here, or if you already live here and you're watching this, we do list homes as well too. If you want to sell as well, you can also click the link below to schedule a Zoom. Give us a thumbs up if this helps. Comment below with questions. We respond to comments as well, and make sure to subscribe so you keep getting videos like this. All right, take care everyone.